Oh, hello. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We are here again. It is a Thursday. Well, I'm tired. Just woke up from my nap, so that's great. Had a bit of an exhausting day in that I had one hour appointment. That just mentally took it all for me. I have these appointments every other week with I guess you could call them a social worker. They basically help people with autism just deal. So I can talk to this person about what's going on with me, and they kind of monitor if I'm doing okay. Like, they'll be there if I start like getting worse, if I start getting more anxious and depressed, and you know, stop doing things socially, things like that. And they also are there to help me with practical stuff. So ever since I was fully vaccinated, we've been tackling a lot of chores and chores, household tasks, and we've been cleaning up a lot of stuff. So that makes me very happy. I think we took out, like, I don't know, 10 kilos of cardboard and shit, and today we cleaned up my storage space outside, and that left me really exhausted because there was so much shit that we cleared up. So that's good, because if I want to move, at least I don't have to deal with that. It's already gone, so that's good. But then I was very tired and I took a nap, and here I am for the stream. What are we doing today? What are we talking about? I had a conversation with a friend yesterday on their stream, and I'm not getting into the details of their stuff because that's not for me to talk about. But what it made me think about was diagnoses. So obviously I'm diagnosed with autism, but in the past I had something called personality disorder not specified, I would say. This is basically when you have kind of some, like, some, how do you call it, like markers of different personality diagnoses, so you don't really fit into one of those categories, but you kind of fit into, well, there is a personality disorder and it's just not specifically that. So common personality disorders that people might know is avoidant personality disorder, histrionic, theatrical, borderline is a common one. And what all these personality disorders have in common is that they are cognitive disorders, which means that they are results from trauma. And that is different than neurological disorders like autism, ADD, bipolar disorder. I think of another few ones, I'm not sure. And there's some overlap between them as well. For example, I don't know a lot about DID, which is hold on. I know it's called DID. It's basically what we call multiple personalities, but that's not the proper term. That is mostly cognitive, but it could also be neurological. I don't know enough about it right now because I didn't do a fucking research. Because I just came up with the subject, and once again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. If you are here for professional advice, you're in the wrong place. I'm talking about what I know, what I've learned, what I've experienced, really as a patient or a client, someone who's been treated, someone who's gone through a shitload of therapy. But I am not a healthcare professional, and if you need that kind of advice, please see your GP and not me. But because what I keep noticing is that there is so much overlap between these diagnoses. So I'm supposed to, well, I have autism, but I recognize so much when people with ADD talk about their experiences and symptoms of ADD. But I've been tested on ADD and I don't have it. So what's that about? And it's kind of the same thing as with the not specified personality disorder, is that you kind of have markers, symptoms these these disorders, but not like enough of them. But it doesn't mean you don't have it, or it doesn't mean it doesn't bother you. And that is a big issue with the way kind of the mental health diagnostic system is working right now. Is it's based on, well, what is called the DSM. The DSM is the, once again, I forgot the freaking what's it called? The diagnostic something manual. I'm just gonna look it up. I was not prepared for today, y'all. I don't know what I'm doing. The DSM, not the DMS. DSM, I think we're at the DSM-5 right now, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which, you know, if you spell that out, it says DSM-MD. So, you know, don't blame me for getting that wrong, because that's not even how you spell it. All right. Let me Google for a second. All right. So, all of the mental illness, mental disorders that doctors can diagnose you with are described in the DSM-5, and it's kind of a manual, which is all these like neat categories, neat labels, and all the list of the symptoms. And don't get me wrong, labels are very helpful. Understanding that I'm autistic really helped me find my own people, helped me understand myself, my own issues. But at the same time, you gotta understand that people don't fit into these boxes. You gotta think of these boxes basically like pigeonholes, right? If you don't know what pigeonholes are, it's a big box where you can fit in letters, where they used to put pigeons in for the letters. Basically, that's what they're called. Letter boxes, if you will, or shoe boxes. Just big, small boxes. And people are blobs. You gotta think about people as big blobs, and we can maybe fit a chunk of our blob into the box, but there's still the rest of the blob, and it goes into other boxes, and there's like overflow, but not, you don't fill up the whole box, you know? It's maybe a weird image that I'm describing right now, but it's kind of how it is we as people do not neatly fit into these boxes. We can kind of go like, okay, well, a big part of ourselves, or we fit into this box for a large enough piece that, okay, the doctor is gonna say you have this label, you fit this label. But it doesn't mean that you don't have other things, or that you don't have problems or issues that fit more neatly into this other box. So one of the things I struggle with a lot is executive dysfunction, which is, you know, it's a part of autism, but it's also a big part of ADD. I struggle with when there's a lot of things going on, picking up priority. I struggle with focusing on one thing if there's like a lot going on. I struggle with just starting anything. Yeah, see, I'm already zoning out. There we go. I'm just like, where did my thoughts go? My brain's just like, nope. So I recognize a lot of the things that people with ADD do, but at the same time, my brain functions at a level that, or like, so the way my brain functions is enough in one way that I don't classify as ADD. But it doesn't mean I don't have a lot of the symptoms, and it doesn't mean I don't have a lot of the similar issues. And that's basically a big thing with especially cognitive disorders, but also neurological ones, honestly, just both. And this kind of thing is called comorbid disorders. Hey, welcome, Pepper's Ghost watching you. Thank you for watching me. Ooh, spooky. And welcome to the stream, Reaper. How are you both doing? And welcome, Sivy. Wow, y'all dropped in suddenly. That's awesome. Welcome, welcome. So what we're talking about is diagnoses and labels, and how even if you have one label and you didn't get another one, it doesn't mean that doesn't apply to you or you don't have these issues. And like I said, it's called comorbid issues. And I've seen this a lot both with myself and friends who have gone through years of diagnosis, years of trying to figure out what was going on with them. and they'd be like, well, I used to be label B and now I'm label A. And it doesn't mean that you are not still struggling with maybe some of the stuff from the other label, or that the label that you have now is a full fit. Do you understand? Like, DSM-5 is meant and created primarily to support insurance companies. It's a way for them to be able to say, all right, this person has this diagnosis, so we're gonna, hand out this money. And also for the government to go, okay, you have this label, so we can connect you to these kind of doctors, this kind of help, these kinds of institutions. So labels in that way are very useful, because it gives you kind of, it's kind of a tool you can use. It's like a key. It's like a key that you can use to open the right doors, to get the right help, the right support. So that's really useful. And also just get money, like not for you personally, but it means that the organizations that help you get money from the government, because you got that label and you tick a box, and it makes their administration work. It's very technical. Yeah. So Saifi makes an excellent point. People with complex PTSD get diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, especially women. Yeah, it's so true. And I was talking about that in my friend's stream yesterday as well, is that borderline personality disorder is usually like a manifestation of abandonment issues, attachment issues, anxieties, and the behavior as a result is often classified as borderline, but it doesn't mean there's not something more going on. And yeah, so obviously a lot of personality disorders stem from trauma, from which I say cognitive, because it's kind of in the way you perceive things, in the way you think, the way you act. Your diagnosis actually got scrubbed out of stuff that didn't happen. Yeah, so that's the exact same thing that has happened to other female friends of mine, actually, is that they were diagnosed with borderline and or with bipolar, and then they got scrubbed and they got something else. And that's kind of my point, is that your symptoms and your problems didn't change. You are still struggling with the same stuff, only now doctors are like, maybe we'll put you in that box, maybe that box will fit better, and then you can, yeah, so the therapy also still helps. So that's a good thing. For example, because I have the personality disorder, as it turns out, if you grow up with autism, you have to consider that as a child, you're basically forced to be someone you're not from a very young age. And I guess you can compare this to being in a closet when you're gay, or growing up as your assigned gender, where you're actually transgender, like a trans woman being forced to grow up as a man. Of course, that's like very different in experience. Like, I'm not saying these things are the same thing, but it's kind of like, yeah, as an autistic person, you basically are forced to pretend and be neurotypical, which you're not. And that, in essentially, is already very traumatizing. Having to be someone you're not, having to think and act and feel the way you aren't, is often causes a lot of anxiety, it causes a lot of depression. So a lot of people with neurological or neurodevelopmental disorders, my English is great tonight, y'all. I don't actually deal with complex PTSD because they've just been forced to do this their whole life, and that is traumatic. Yeah, they're all aspects of the one problem, exactly. And it's also tricky because what is the problem, right? Wow, my voice is very low. Yeah, so we want to think about it like, okay, we're gonna zone in on the problem, find the exact thing that is wrong with us, and then we're gonna fix it. And when I got my autism diagnosis, I had to face the facts. I had to like realize that there wasn't like a tiny little fracture or some kind of plug that I could pull out and I would be okay. I had to realize like, wow, the whole thing is me. it's not that I'm the problem, but I'm just I'm a different kind of person. And I'm gonna have to learn how to live with that. And there's not actually anything wrong with me. All my problems and the anxiety and the depression that I suffered was a result of being different than other people and kind of being the misfit. So if everyone in the world was like this, or everyone's vertical, and here I am horizontal, and that creates friction, right? It creates conflict. And I kept trying to, be vertical, but it still didn't work. So you have to, when it comes to neurological disorders, you have to realize that you are essentially have a big difference than other people, and it's about the whole you. It's not a singular problem that you can just neatly package and put over there and be like, you go over there. I don't, you're not me. And I don't want to have anything to do with you. And we're just gonna fix you. That's not the thing. But when it comes to cognitive disorders, you can very much be like, all right, there's a part that's like kind of the original me, like the real you, I would say. And there's the part of you that has, grown up through trauma, has had a lot of these difficulties, has been badly hurt, maybe abused, whatever bad things happen to you. And that's still a part of you, but it's also something that you can take into therapy and learn to deal with. You can process it. If you deal with trauma, some of it is gonna, a lot of the pain is gonna go away. I would compare it to cleaning a room. That's how it felt like for me. And in the end, I would say the room still has some damage, but I cleaned most of the shit out. So, I processed a lot of trauma in therapy, and I feel like, well, that was just neatly cleaned up and put behind me, and it doesn't bother me anymore. Kind of still there in storage, because I can be like, oh yeah, that happened, but it's not really hurting me anymore. And that's the difference between neurological and cognitive disorders, is that a neurological disorder is going to be with you the whole time. And I also want to reframe autism as a disorder, because it's only a disorder where you compare it to normal people. Otherwise, you can just say autistic is autistic, neurotypical is neurotypical, and it's not like one is disorder based on the other one. You might as well say, well, you have neurotypical disorder. For some reason, you just give vague hints to people instead of telling them how it is. And for some reason, your senses are very dulled and you never really sense what's going on. And I'm like, why can you not hear this thing? And you're like, I don't hear it. I would say that's a disorder. You don't hear things that I hear. You don't see things that I see. That's just, your brain is strange. You don't perceive things that are clearly there. What's wrong with you? You know what I'm getting at? It's not a disorder. It's just different. And we call it a disorder because most of society is neurotypical, aka normal, and we're not. And that's not true. So that's the difference, because when it comes to cognitive disorders like personality disorders, depression, anxiety, these are things that you can deal with, and they might go away or they might become less, and they are not essentially a part of you, in the sense that I'm trying to put this in words, but it's hard. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because I know there's people who have suffered with depression all their life and it's not going to go away, and that's very hard as well. In an awkward situation, put people at ease by opening your face and showing them the part of the skeleton you crush animal flesh with. That is such a good line. That is great. Hi, here are my animal crushers. Do you feel at ease now? That's really funny. That's really good. Yeah. Trying to be horizontal when you're vertical. Yeah. Lols. Do you like my exposed bones? Are they white enough for you? Oh my god. That just reminds me of the webcomic with the aliens. I'm not sure if you know that, but that one is so much like that. Yeah, humans have some strange behaviors. Yeah. Yeah, so people are Nathan Pyle, exactly. You might have even gotten that from him. He's great. Great. So yeah, of course you can have depression and anxiety for your entire life, and it does inform a lot of the things you do, say, and feel. But at the same, and it might even, you know, because growing up with depression and anxiety, as you're growing up, your brain is growing. But if your brain is growing whilst you are suffering from these things, it is going to be a little different than the brain of a person who didn't grow up with these things. So once again, there is some overlap between neurological and cognitive, because these are not neat separate boxes. There we go. Right. Making gross nose sounds. I will mute my microphone. My hair is so big, y'all. I don't... Look at all this floof. What is going on? I did put curl stuff in my hair again, because that's nice. It's super floofy. I'm really, like, it's so interesting that my hair structure changed last year and I got curls. Of course, I do put curl products in to make it look all curly whirly, but if I don't, it's just a big ball of floof. So, like, it's really frizzy. And that's actually a sign that you actually may have curly hair. If it's frizzy all the time, you might actually need curl products. But that's like a whole other discussion. So yeah, Sivy makes a great point, is that a CPTSD is like, it is me, my brain is like this. It's CPTSD means cognitive post-traumatic stress disorder, and basically this is what happens if you have multiple traumas. And like I said, as an autistic person or someone with ADD, growing up is also kind of traumatic, because you're processing information differently than all of your peers. You handle social situations differently than all of your peers, and you probably got bullied for that. So all of that is traumatic, and there's only so much you can do about it. And once again, it's like you don't fit in neatly into these boxes that doctors want to put you into, and at the same time, these labels can help. So it's kind of like, yeah, you grew up with the trauma because your brain was formed under the trauma. Exactly. And that creates overlap with people who are autistic, and at the same time, people who are autistic also experience this. So, like, that's kind of my point. We call it comorbid, which I find morbid, because it's not like we're dying of this stuff. Well, depression can sadly be lethal, but mostly let's assume that we're not immediately keeling over. There's overlap, and I think a lot of people forget about that when they are seeking a diagnosis. That are kind of like, I need to find the word that will help me just fix my life and help me not have so much trouble. I need to find a magic word to get the help that I need. And this is a big problem within mental health services, is that it's really too focused on slapping a label on someone, sending them in the right direction, instead of thinking about, okay, what does this person actually need? How can we help them? Obviously, having a label, having a diagnosis helps a lot, but it shouldn't be the end of the line. It should be like, all right, we figured out the thing, good luck. Because there's more things going on. And I think that's because everything is kind of focused on getting the right label for your insurance administration. We're not looking at the whole picture. We're not looking at, okay, what do people really need? Regardless of what diagnoses they have, do they need help with doing their daily tasks? Do they need help with their education? Do they need help establishing boundaries at their job? Do they need help establishing boundaries in their relationship? Do they need help having a more gentle internal dialogue, which is a huge part of depression and anxiety, but could also be part of autism, or both? Like, if you're autistic like me, and this happens to a lot of women with autism, but generally all over, is that we have these huge high demands of ourselves. We're like, because we spend our lives trying to be neurotypical, we just have like our demands towards ourselves are like at the moon. It's like we have to be good, we have to be social, we have to be friendly, we have to be outgoing, we have to get a job, an apartment, pet, a relationship, friends, we need a social life, we need to get all the hobbies, we need to be perfect. Oh my god. And that's so stressful. And that's something that both neurological and autistic people can probably identify with. So that is a part of the schema therapy that I followed, is you learn to have a lot more positive internal dialogue, and you learn to be a very kind, nurturing parent towards yourself. And it doesn't quite matter what your diagnosis is, because this is a cognitive technique that is really helpful towards anyone, whatever's going on with you. Yeah, why not both? Always pleasing. Yeah. So that's something I wanted to talk about, and something I wanted to hand over to you. Like, if you've got any thoughts or opinions about this, you have to remember that whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're struggling with, you're a whole ass complex person, and labels can definitely help, and they can, very importantly, they can help you get the help you need, but it doesn't mean that defines you or that is all you. But then again, I'm trying to like get the words out. Like, if you're autistic, it does kind of define you. It also doesn't. Like, I would just say, like, you're a complex person, and whatever you are, or whatever label you get, you're gonna need to help. Like, you need to get the help that's right for you, regardless of labels. Hold on, you got motherfucking Queen of Watercolor? Alright, hold on. I'm gonna permit that because I don't get it, and I know you're a cool person. I have like an automatic filter just in case. Oh, you mean like being sarcastic towards yourself? Like, oh, you're the motherfucking Queen of Watercolor, aren't you? Sarcastically positive. Yeah, I'm not sure if that helps, but you can try. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the hardest things to do, is be more positive towards yourself. But it's also something you can really learn in therapy. So that kind of wraps up my mental health story for today. If you have any more comments or questions, I'm just gonna hang and sip my water. You can let me know. I'm so burned from this weekend. Like, holy crap. I try to really think about it like being a nice parent. Think about, actually, your inner child is upset or crying or angry, and how would you deal with a child? You wouldn't just go towards a child and go like, shut up, get it together, get your shit together. That's not what you would do, right? If a child is upset, you're gonna be like that, all right, and you're gonna sit next to them and be like, oh, tell me what's going on with you. Like, why can't you so sad? And just sitting down with yourself and process your emotions. And being a nurturing parent also means you go like, all right, Mom, we have to go do this thing. I know you don't like it, but it's very important that we go to the dentist. And your inner child's like, I don't want to go to the dentist. And you're like, yeah, but I'm your parent, and I feel like this is important, and we're gonna be okay. I'll be there for you, but it's gonna be scary, and I'll be there. And this is one of those necessary things we have to do, and that's one of the big processes. And at least schema therapy is actually called reparenting, which means kind of growing your internal nice parent and throwing out the internal bad parent who's like, shut up, you suck. And you, sadly, often in more cases than not, the parent is actually the parent you had growing up, who may have been mean to you or mistreated you in some way, or it could have been a parental figure like a guardian or teacher or a friend who you placed like in a parental role. So that's a whole other discussion, but maybe that's a good thing to talk about next is reparenting and parental roles. Anyway, we are gonna shift over to a Mass Effect. Let's turn on the game. Grab my kitty headset. That as well.